I wanted to scream, to tell it I didn't belong to it, but my mouth wouldn't open, my voice was gone. The shadow moved closer. I could feel it wrapping around me like chains. I tried to fight, but the more I struggled, the heavier it became. In the distance, I could still see the light. I could see the people reaching it, disappearing into its safety, and I was still stuck. I woke up with a gasp. My heart was pounding. My body felt cold even though the room was warm. I sat up and whispered, "Ya Allah, please, don't let that be me. Don't let me be the one who can't reach your light."
It felt like a warning, not just a dream, but a glimpse into what could happen if I didn't break free. And from that night, every time temptation came, I remembered the shadow's voice. "You belong to me." And I told myself, "No, I belong to Allah." There were many times I almost told my husband the truth. Sometimes it was after a fight. Sometimes it was during a quiet evening when we sat together in peace. I would look at him and think, maybe if I tell him, I won't have to carry this alone anymore. But the words never came. It wasn't because I didn't trust him. He had been nothing but kind to me. But how do you tell someone you love about the parts of you that you hate? How do you open your mouth and say, "I've been carrying a sin for years, and sometimes I still do it"? I feared his reaction. I feared that he would see me differently, that the way he looked at me would change. I feared that the love in his eyes would turn into pity, or worse, disgust. So I smiled. I laughed at his jokes. I played the role of the happy wife, and inside, I locked my secrets away. There were times I wrote him letters in my journal, letters he would never read. I would write about my struggle, my past, and my desperate wish to be free. I would write about how I wanted to be the best wife for him, but how my own shadows kept holding me back. But I tore up those letters every time. Some days the weight of my silence felt heavier than the sin itself. Keeping it inside was exhausting. Pretending to be fine was exhausting. Yet I couldn't bring myself to break the silence, because once you tell someone, you can't take it back. And I wasn't sure I was ready to live with how he might see me after knowing the truth. So I carried it alone, hoping, praying, that one day I could give him a wife who was free from this struggle. It took me months to gather the courage. I heard about therapy before, but in my mind it was something other people did, not me. In our community, it wasn't common to talk about mental health. You prayed, you made dua, you read Quran, and you kept your problems to yourself. But the truth was, I was tired of fighting this alone, tired of being my own secret keeper. One evening, while scrolling online, I came across a Muslim therapist profile. She worked with people who had experienced childhood trauma. Her smile was gentle, her words in the bio were comforting. I stared at her picture for a long time. Then, with a pounding heart, I sent her a message. We set a time for a video call. The day of the appointment, my hands were trembling as I logged in. I almost cancelled, but when her face appeared on the screen and she greeted me with "Assalamu alaikum," something in me softened. I didn't tell her everything right away. At first I spoke about feeling stuck and ashamed, but she asked the right questions. Questions no one had ever asked me before. And slowly, the truth began to spill out. When I told her about Samira, her voice was calm but firm. "Amina, what happened to you was not your fault. You were a child, you didn't choose it." Those words, they broke something inside me. For years, I had carried the belief that I was somehow to blame, that I had let it happen, that my sin started back then. She explained how trauma works, how it stays in the body, how sometimes we repeat the harm we experienced, not because we want to, but because our bodies learned it before we even understood what it meant. It wasn't an excuse for my sin, but it helped me understand why it was so hard to let go. Before our call ended, she said, "Amina, your worth is not decided by your worst moments. You are still worthy of love, and Allah's mercy is bigger than your past." And for the first time in a long time, I almost believed it. After that session with a therapist, something shifted in me. I began to realize that I had been living my whole life as if I was still that powerless child in my aunt's house. The one who didn't have a choice, the one who kept quiet and obeyed, the one who thought her worth depended on staying invisible. But I wasn't that little girl anymore. The therapist told me about reparenting, learning to care for myself the way a loving parent would, speaking kindly to myself, setting boundaries, giving myself the safety I never had as a child. At first it felt strange. I was so used to being harsh with myself. When I made a mistake, my first thought was, "You're disgusting, you'll never change." But now, I began to replace those words with, "You made a mistake, but you're still trying. Allah sees your effort." I started treating myself like I was someone worth protecting. One of the biggest parts of this new care was turning to the Quran, not just as a book of rules, but as a source of comfort. I began reading it in the early mornings, when the world was quiet and my heart was softer. I didn't rush through the pages. I lingered on the verses that spoke of mercy, of patience, of Allah's closeness to those who call on Him. One ayah struck me deeply. Indeed, with hardship comes ease. I had read it before, but this time, I understood it differently. The ease wasn't always the removal of the hardship. Sometimes the ease was knowing that Allah was still with me in the middle of it. I started journaling Quran verses that gave me hope. On hard days I would open my notebook and read them to myself, like a mother comforting her child. And little by little, I began to believe something I never thought I would. I wasn't broken beyond repair. I was still growing, and Allah hadn't given up on me yet. If I could stand in front of every Muslim parent, I would speak from the deepest part of my heart. I would say, please, see your children, really see them. Don't just feed them and clothe them and assume they are fine. Ask them how they feel. Listen without rushing to judge or lecture. Too many children are carrying wounds that their parents know nothing about. Some of those wounds are small disappointments, but others are life-changing traumas. It's easy to think, my child would tell me if something was wrong. But I am living proof that isn't always true. Sometimes children stay silent because they don't have the words. Sometimes they stay silent because they are afraid you won't believe them, or that you'll blame them. I wish my parents had looked closer. I wish they had noticed that my smile was different. I wish they had asked why I suddenly hated being alone with certain people. I wish they had fought harder to keep me close instead of letting me go without a real fight. I am not telling you this to hurt you, but to warn you. Your children need more than clothes, food, and school fees. They need you to know who their friends are. They need you to protect them, even from family members. They need you to notice when something changes in their behavior, when they grow quieter, when their eyes stop shining the way they used to. And most of all, they need your love to be safe. Not love that is mixed with fear. Not love that is earned only when they're good. But love that says, you can tell me anything, and I will stand by you. Because sometimes, one conversation could be the difference between a child carrying a wound for a lifetime, or beginning to heal. I can't go back and change my story, but maybe by telling it, I can help protect someone else's child. And if even one parent hears me, and goes home tonight and looks into their child's eyes and really asks, "Are you okay?" then this pain will not have been for nothing. One night, after writing in my journal for a long time, I did something I had never done before. I decided to write a letter to Samira. It wasn't for her to read. I knew I would never send it. But I needed to put the words somewhere, all the words I had swallowed for years. I began simply, "You hurt me." The pen felt heavy in my hand. My heart was pounding. I kept writing. I told her what she did to me. I told her that I was a child, that I didn't understand, that I didn't have the power to say no. I told her how her actions followed me into my teenage years, into my marriage, into my faith. I told her about the shame, the nights of tears, the guilt that felt like a shadow over my prayers. And then, I told her something I didn't expect to write. I forgive you, but I can't forget. Forgiveness didn't mean I excused her. It didn't mean I thought what she did was okay. It meant I was tired of letting her live rent-free in my mind. I was tired of giving her the power to define me. I wrote that I hoped she would one day see the wrong she had done, and turn back to Allah in repentance. By the time I finished, my hand ached and my eyes were swollen from crying. I folded the letter and placed it inside my journal. I didn't tear it up. I didn't burn it. I just let it sit there. A reminder of the pain I had survived, and the strength it took to put it into words. Writing that letter didn't erase my past, but it gave me a piece of my voice back. It was like taking one brick out of the wall of silence I had built around myself. I would never send it, but I didn't need to, because the letter had already done its job. It set me free a little more. It happened on an ordinary evening. I had just finished Maghrib prayer. The sun had set, leaving a soft orange glow in the sky. I stayed on my prayer mat longer than usual, my head lowered, my hands resting gently in my lap. I wasn't crying. I wasn't even making dua yet. I was just still. And in that stillness I felt it, the weight I had been carrying for so many years pressing down on me again. The memories, the shame, the secret nights, the silence. But this time, instead of fighting it, I let it rise. I let myself feel it all. I whispered, Ya Allah, I can't carry this anymore. The words came without planning. My voice trembled, but I didn't stop. I've been holding this for so long. The pain, the guilt, the anger. I don't want it anymore. Please, take it from me. And for the first time, I meant it completely. I wasn't asking for the struggle to disappear overnight. I wasn't bargaining for a perfect version of myself. I was simply surrendering. I went into sujood, and I stayed there. My forehead pressed into the mat, my heart wide open. I spoke to Allah like a child again, saying, It's yours now. All of it. I'm tired, and I need you to carry it for me. When I finally sat up, I felt lighter. Not fixed, not perfect, but lighter. It wasn't a magical ending. The memories were still there, the scars hadn't vanished, but I knew I had given Allah what I had been holding so tightly for so long. And in that moment, I realized something important. Letting go didn't mean forgetting. It didn't mean pretending it never happened. Letting go meant I no longer had to live every day as if it had just happened. That night, I slept without nightmares. And when I woke up the next morning, the air felt different. Not because the world had changed, but because I had. For most of my life, I thought I was my story. I thought I was the girl who was sent away, the girl who was touched before she understood what it meant, the girl who hid in silence, the girl who prayed and sinned in the same breath. I thought that was all I would ever be. But as I grew, as I cried my heart out to Allah, as I started to heal, I realized something different. I am not what happened to me. I am not my worst mistakes. I am not the whispers in my head, or the nights I lost the battle. I am the girl who kept getting up. The girl who still believed in Allah's mercy even when she was drowning in guilt. The girl who didn't let her pain completely take away her faith. I am the girl who learned that Allah's forgiveness is bigger than my sins. The girl who learned that the Quran speaks to the broken as much as it speaks to the pure. For so long I lived under labels, damaged, impure, hopeless. But now, I refuse them. My name is Amina, and I am more than my wounds. Yes, my past shaped me. Yes, it left scars, but scars are proof that wounds heal. Scars are a sign of survival, not defeat. And now, I see my story differently. It is no longer just a record of pain. It is a testimony of Allah's mercy. It is proof that no matter how far you think you've gone, He can still pull you back. When I stand in prayer now, I don't just see the girl who sinned, I see the woman who fought. The woman who didn't give up on Allah, even when she wanted to give up on herself. And I want every person hearing this to know, you are not what happened to you. You are not the mistakes you made. You are who you choose to be today, and Allah can rewrite your story at any moment. And that is freedom. When I look back on my journey, I see more than just the pain. I see the lessons, deep, hard, sometimes painful lessons, that I now carry like lanterns in the dark. I know now that silence can be dangerous. That sometimes the most broken people are the ones who smile the most. I know that a child's safety should never be assumed, even inside their own family. And I know that shame is one of Shaitan's favorite weapons, because it keeps us from running back to Allah. I carry a message now, and it burns bright inside me. Your past does not define you. I want other women, and men too, who carry secret sins and secret wounds to know that they are not alone. That they can still come back to Allah, no matter how many times they have fallen. That healing is not about becoming who you were before, but becoming someone stronger and wiser after. If I could speak to the younger me, I would tell her, you will survive this. You will cry a lot. You will make mistakes. You will hate yourself sometimes. But one day, you will see Allah's mercy in your story. One day, you will tell it without breaking, and you will use it to help someone else. I carry this message because I believe someone out there needs it. Maybe a young girl who thinks she's too far gone. Maybe a man who hides his shame behind a perfect public image. Maybe a parent who doesn't realize their child is quietly hurting. To them I say, it is not too late. Allah's mercy is not tired of you. Your wounds do not make you unworthy of love or forgiveness. And even if you've been carrying the same sin for years, you can still put it down at the feet of the most merciful. This is the message I carry forward, not because my story is perfect, but because it is real, and real stories can save lives. My story doesn't end with a perfect transformation. I'm not here to say I never feel tempted anymore, or that every scar has disappeared. Life isn't like that. Healing isn't like that. But I can say this, I'm not who I was when this began. Now when temptation comes, I fight differently. I remember the ayah that stopped me mid-sin. I remember the dream that warned me. I remember the tears I cried in sujood, when I told Allah I couldn't carry it anymore. And most of all, I remember that I am not alone in this fight. Allah is with me, always has been, always will be. There are still days when the old habits knock at my door. But now, I know I have a choice. I don't always win, but I win more often than I lose. And every time I choose to walk away, it feels like a small victory worth celebrating. I've learned to fill my life with things that bring me closer to Allah. Quran recitation in the early mornings, journaling my du'as, talking to people I trust, and helping others who are struggling. Because helping others has become part of my healing. Every time I share my story, every time I tell someone they're not alone, a little more of my shame loses its power. This is my new beginning, not because the past has been erased, but because I have stopped letting it define my future. To anyone listening to me now, maybe your story is different from mine. Maybe your struggle has a different shape. But the truth is the same. You can start again. You can choose a new chapter, even if the last one was messy. Allah has given me chance after chance, even when I didn't think I deserved it. And if He can do that for me, He can do it for you. So today, I choose to keep walking forward. I choose to trust that Allah is rewriting my story every time I turn back to Him. And maybe, this is what freedom really looks like, a new beginning.